Now the story of a Karmann Ghia turned drift car, and the two nerds who had no choice but to keep building it. This is Crucible Coachworks. He wanted an RWB kit, but he also wanted to be able to pay rent. So he did what any completely unqualified car guy would do. He built it himself, using tools he definitely bought before learning what they were. He called this guesswork, which is weird because it fit on the first try. This is the part where he was supposed to mess up, but unfortunately, he didn't. Look, we don't know how he's doing this either. He couldn't afford RWB, but he made something worse. Except, it's not. It's kind of amazing. All right, gang, it's finally time. I'm gonna go ahead and do the passenger side flares, and we're going to try to get it all done in one video. For those just tuning in for the first time, this is our Drift Ghia project, and underneath of this body is a Porsche 944 race car chassis. Oh, and we also put a 07K engine in it with a big old turbo. Last week we made a cold air intake air box here that pulls from the grill. So the air intake system is pretty much done. Many of you ask how we copy one side of the car to the other side of the car. Well, this week I'm gonna show you. One of the most confusing and toughest things with metal shaping, especially when trying to do accurate metal shaping, is knowing what shape to start with for your panel. What's the basic shape that you cut out of the metal to make sure you have enough metal to shape the fender flare? Well, in previous videos when we made that side of the car, we made paper templates. And of course, I still have these paper templates, so I can go ahead and lay these out and cut them out of steel and have a very, very solid starting point. And I know already that they're good, because the end results I have, well, I think they speak for themselves. This is also why it's really important that I make notes when I'm making my patterns. Like here, I have to add a flange. I have to add a flange to this edge because I'm not going to remember months later when I make the other side of the car, or if I'm gonna make, extras, I need to know. So I always make notes of what I'm doing. So to make this side look like the other side, the first step is to cut out my metal. Clean up, clean up. Oh, I love brand new sheets of metal. Here's a little trick. When you're working with bare metal, wear gloves. The oils in your hands cause rust. I get asked a lot, what do I use in the shop to keep bare metal from rusting? I actually don't use anything. I just keep my grimy hands off it. Do your best to not bare hand the metal and you're good. Always, always, always oversize. Always. And now for the rear flares. Trying to optimize my space as much as possible, not have too much waste, but there's going to be waste, unfortunately. Save you guys some time here. There we go. Now we're all ready to go. First thing we're gonna do is start with the front flare. I've been calling it a flare, but it's almost more like a fender. It's like a fender half. So these two pieces are going to be the fender flare, or fender. For those who don't know, this is what's called aluminum killed drawing quality steel, also known as stamping steel or deep draw steel. This steel is what they use when they stamp body panels on cars because it's meant to have movement. It's meant to be shrunk. It's meant to be stretched. It's a lot softer than typical cold rolled steel. Many of you are probably trying to do metal shaping with regular cold rolled steel and finding out that it's really, really tough and hard to move. You can do it, but it's genuinely like 10 times as hard to move than aluminum killed drawing quality steel. And for those wondering, that was a 4x8 sheet of metal, which is the size of this table. And here's what's left from that one sheet to make the fenders on one side of the car. These are the rear halves. Hi, Jigsaw. Don't worry guys, we're working on Jigsaw. You'll see more of him soon. So the next step to get these fenders to not be flat pieces of metal is to add shape to them, which is going to be a balance of shrink and stretch like we did on this side of the car. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at my fender, right? I can see my shrink marks where I shrunk. I can see my stretch marks. I can see where I folded it around. I'm gonna kind of take note of that for when I'm shaping it. But also, one thing to keep in mind, and you can kind of see it here, we did a wireframe in the side of the car, and that wireframe is what's kind of holding this metal up. But the metal itself is actually rigid and strong now, so it's really kind of holding itself up. The wireframe was just a guide for that. I'm not going to be redoing the wireframe for the passenger side of the car. This is kind of a waste of time when I already have my templates. The wireframing is what I use to get the templates figured out and also the basic design, and we've already done that, so I'm not gonna do that again. So there's gonna be things that we're going to do to make sure that I still have the right profiles. And we're gonna go into that while we're shaping it. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to lay a roadmap for success. This is a radius gauge. And the numbers on it are the inch radius, and they correspond with the inch radius on the tooling that we're gonna be using, like my giant English wheel, to make these fenders. So what I'm gonna be doing is taking the radius gauge and measuring the radius in different segments, and then relocating that radius onto the panel that we're making. Up through here is a 12, for example. I'm gonna mark that on this panel, boop. So I know to use the 12 anvil in that area, and that's the goal shape that I'm going for. It's always a good idea to get at least rough numbers down to start with. My layout's always very, very vague because I kind of shape by feel more so than math. I hate math. Also, if you want to know more in-depth details, especially hands-on with metal shaping, I do run a metal shaping class once a month in Pottstown, Pennsylvania at Eastwood Company. I will put the link to the classes in the video description. And speaking of Eastwood, they're this week's video sponsor. As many of you are already aware, Eastwood is one of our biggest sponsors. We work with them all the time. We use their welders, we use their plasma tables, we use their plasma cutters. Without their tools, we would not get nearly as much done as we do. And you guys see how I treat my tools. Their tools stand up to the test. Some of my favorite tools that we have for them are their VersaCut 4x4 CNC plasma table, the Eastwood TIG 200 LCD, and I'm excited because they just gave us this new Yoast vise that I can't wait to drop on my toe. Right now on their website, they're having their Eastwood Memorial Day garage sale. $25 off of $249. This sale goes on until June 1st, so you do not want to delay. Hit the link in the video description down below to find out more. Gotta pop this off so I can actually fit it up against the body. All right, first step is to get the general shape, which is best done with my good friend, the English knee. Look, we're already done. All right, basic stretch is done. Let's shrink it. And I think I'm gonna use the power hammer for that. That is a lot of shrink. I'd say we're going the right way. I'm gonna trim it back just a little bit where I know I have overhang that I don't need, particularly like right here, for example, where it's just a little excessive. It'll be easier to work with if I shorten it. And then I'm gonna go and planish it and keep shaping it. The rough shape is exactly what I'm looking for. Take a little bit of fettling to get it to sit into place. But if I get to the center here, you can see by the profile, we're pretty close. That's looking so much better and a lot smoother. I readjusted the clecos a little bit. I had this cleco down like a little bit too high, so I pulled this out a little bit further. Now it's flared up to where I need it to be. Obviously, the wheel arch here is way over exaggerated. It's too long. This thick line right here is about where the brake's gonna be to break it down, and then it's gonna be trimmed back to have that wheel arch lip. So now is the tough part, right? I need to figure out where this lip's going to be, because I can look at it on this side and it's beautiful. And also, not only is it beautiful, I was able to do it easily because I had the wireframe underneath here, which I traced onto the outer lip. So I need to figure out how to translate the driver's side wheel arch to the other side without having a wireframe. There are a couple ways I could go about this. Typically what I would like to do is a tape pattern, but there's one thing I need to keep in mind here, and that's that what we're doing right now is for a drift car. So when it comes to quality of work on cars, I have a swinging scale, right? I try to keep it really high-end, high-quality work, but there's a point of diminishing returns when you know that this car is going to go into a wall, right? The last 10% of work takes 90% of the time, typically, especially when it comes to metal shaping. So I'm going to alleviate that a little bit by having a little bit bigger margin for error. So by doing a tape pattern, there might be some differences in shape that might throw it off a couple millimeters, but I still think the tape pattern would be more accurate than if I did like just kind of eyeball it. I'm still tempted to eyeball it too. And in that same vein of diminishing returns and trying not to put too much time into something that's going to be wrecked, but I still want to look good and high quality, the tape pattern will take a lot of time. It takes a long time to lay down a tape pattern. Like if I were to do just this half of a fender here, it would probably take me about 30 minutes maybe to do a really good tape pattern. But I have an idea what I could do that would be faster and still give me the results that I need. I have all sizes of TIG wire over here, and I especially have this 3/32 TIG wire, which is what we used to make our wire frame. What I could do is bend this TIG wire on just a two-dimensional plane right at the edge of this brake line and have it line up, you know, obviously to the edge of the spoiler here. And then I could flip it for the other side, and that bend a couple of maybe like measurement from like this peak right here to the center of the wheel for distance should be close enough. I have not done it this way before. In fact, wheel arches are my least favorite thing to do because they're so finicky, and you really want to get them right, because if you don't have it right, the car looks weird. I'm gonna try the wire thing quick because it should only take me like maybe 10 minutes to do. So even if I end up going to a tape pattern, I've only lost like 10 minutes. That should work pretty well. All right, so not to flex or anything, but after years of this bead roller being right here, I finally went ahead and attached it to the floor. So now it doesn't wobble around when I use it, and I'm so excited to do that. I don't know why it took me this long to finally do that, other than the fact that I'm an idiot. Now we gotta bead roll the flange that I just marked on the fender. Then I'll have to shrink the excess material from bending that flange, and then I think the front half of the fender will be done, for now anyway. Forgot to bring this with me. Come on guys, let's go. Good enough for now. All right, that's looking pretty good. I have a little bit of bacon going on here, which means there's just a little bit too much material. Also, the curve just is a little flat. So to fix that, I'm gonna shrink a little bit right here to kind of curl it in. And then the flange is too big, obviously, so I gotta grind it back some. But otherwise, wow, that worked out pretty quickly. I'd still be making a tape pattern right now if I didn't do the wire thing, so. I'm gonna save you guys some time, so we're gonna bring up my trusty hammer here. We're gonna fix it quickly. Oh, wow. Hammers really do fix everything. Sick. so for now I'm gonna call that done. Is it done? No. Is it good enough for now? Yeah, baby. And good enough for now is all I'm looking for. So up next is now to make this piece right here, which goes directly behind the front of the fender back there. And then we'll have the front of the car done. Well, front fender's roughed in. We know this is gonna be roughed in. I need to stop explaining it. Tell me to stop explaining it. We all know. Alrighty, the front fender is officially fully roughed in, including a wheel arch. I think I'm gonna have to tune the wheel arch a little bit later, but I'm trying not to go too crazy with the tuning because, well, we have suspension to build. We're gonna do extended control arms. We're gonna get custom wheels made. There's some things that need to be done that could potentially make the wheel arch change, so I'm not gonna go too crazy with it just yet. Okay, but Ryan, why are you doing this now then? Why not do those things first? Because I want to wide body the car now. We are going to build / buy wheels that, you know, have the right offset to fit in the area that we made in the wheel arches. The thing I'm mainly concerned about is when we do the extended control arms is the swing of the wheel turning if it's going to hit the front or back of the wheel arch. And that's why I own a Sawzall. Not worried about it. Time for you. So the front half of the rear quarter panel is basically just one long compound curve, which means I'm just going to shrink this top edge, bulge out the outside with a little bit of stretch. You know, it'll be a 12, just like everything else pretty much. And then I'll flange the edge, just like the front fender. Pretty straightforward. And then also we have this vent here, which is going to be one of the air intakes for the radiator, which can be mounted in the rear. We need a vent on that side, obviously, to match. So to make things a little bit easier, at some point here, I'm going to cut out this shape. And I'll probably just use the vent as a little template for that. that's going very smoothly. Let's cut out the vent area so I can actually pop it in where I want it to go. So what I'm doing is I'm taking tape and I'm going along the edge of my bead with tape, and then I'm gonna trim it back to the edge of that tape, so then I have a very consistent single strip of metal along the edge here, and then I can take that measurement of the width of the tape and then, you know, transfer it to the inside and scribe it from the back side. I think that'll work. Oops, that wasn't supposed to. Don't tell Tony, guys. Shh. So anyway. Guys, we are so close to 100,000 subscribers, and when we get to 100,000 subscribers, you guys know what that means. If you don't know what that means, it means that we're doing a really special project that's for one video, start to finish, and it has 4 wheels and is gonna be really cool. Many of you have already sent us some sick stickers to put on the project. If you have not done that yet, the address to send them to is in the video description down below. Send us your stickers so we can put them on the project. And if you're part of our Patreon, you're a paid member, you support our channel in that way, you're gonna get your name put on the vehicle as well. So, because you know, you guys are the coolest. We're out of time for this week. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to do the side vent on the quarter panel, but we did get the rest of the side of the car done in metal, which is a lot of work for this week. I'm very tired. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks for hanging in the shop with us. And I get to finally film the side of the car. Sick.